Hi guys, my name's Sean Bailey. I hope you're enjoying your workplace wellness event. I'm going to talk to you today around sleep and sleep awareness. I'm going to share with you some tips, a little bit of insight into who I am, and just some really fundamentals that we sort of look to encourage when we are delivering sleep awareness training or any type of sleep education program. So, as I said, I'm going to use a couple of slides just to guide through this talk. Hopefully that will give you a little bit of clarity and a little bit of insight, but it'll also make it graphically pleasing rather than staring at my face for the next 10 minutes or so. So in terms of sleep and sleep awareness and what I do, so I'm a health and wellbeing coach as well as a trainer. I deliver lots of training to different sectors, different people working in different areas around sleep specifically, but also generally around health and well-being. I spent 20 years in the private sector. I spent 10 years coaching elite Paralympic sport, and I'm now an accredited life coach and NLP practitioner, personal trainer, deliver mental health first aid. I'm a CBTI coach, which is cognitive behavioural therapy for insomnia, and I'm a little bit of I'll be honest, I'm a little bit of a sleep nerd. I'm very often researching things around sleep and how we can use sleep to enhance our life. I do a lot of space in culinary medicine and the nutrition world specifically. One of the, again, a key area is uncovering what we can do, what foods we can eat to improve our sleep. I've spent a lot of work delivering behaviour change programs, and underneath all that, I use lived experience of poor mental and physical health. And my story of recovery to sort of support all those elements. So that's a little bit about me, but enough of that. This is not why we're here. So sleep in my view, I'm just going to start the share, is possibly the most underappreciated component of human health. There are so many things that, in fact, sleep affects every single biological process in the body. It is that powerful. There isn't one thing that isn't enhanced by good sleep that happens in the body, and also isn't impaired by poorer sleep that goes in the body. So think about blood sugar control, again, is impacted by a lack of sleep, and there's lots of evidence and research out there that supports that hypothesis and proves that theory. So sleep is also linked to poorer exercise performance. So poor sleep equals impaired exercise. And then flip that on its head, improved sleep, good sleep equals better exercise performance. So it affects us in so many different ways. It's really is such an important factor of life. We spend 8 hours, or we're supposed to spend 8 hours a night in bed. So we're in theory, we should spend a third of our life, 8 hours a day, 24 hours in a day, so a third of our life asleep. So if Mother Nature has decided that we need to spend a third of our life asleep, sleep must play a significant role in optimal and in good health. And I think what's happening in the in the current lifestyle circumstances, current climate, if you like, even with pre and post COVID and during, is that sleep is one of the first things that we just sort of naturally just cut off because we're busy. Technology, the way that technology has I guess developed over the last few years, over the last 10, 15 years, it's been so quick that we as humans have not been able to catch up or keep up with technology. So we're still learning about how to use technology to optimize our health and good behavior, and technology impacts our sleep as well. So I'll pop the share back on the slide so we can see, again, as I say, so we can go through a couple of fundamentals, and we'll share with you some tips that hopefully can help. But in terms of sleep and the process of sleep, there are two key things that I always discuss with people. Number one is something called melatonin, which is a hormone. Melatonin is a hormone that is secreted by the pineal gland. And what melatonin does is essentially, it is often known as the darkness hormone. So it signals to the brain that it's time to go to sleep. It's almost like the body clock, it's an outcome of the body clock being in the right place. The reason why it's important is that, as I say, it's a hormone. It does a lot more than just telling the body that it's time to go to sleep. There's lots of health benefits around melatonin, but the primary role of it in relation to sleep is that it gets the body in the right place at the right time for the right sleep. However, what happens is, through poor light or light exposure of some form, I'm not going to go into the whole blue light scaremongering type of thing, we've all heard that, but light or lack of light can create interference. Food can also create interference. So eating at the wrong times will signal to the body that it's not the right time to be going to bed. So let's not secrete melatonin in the way that we are doing, or we should be doing. So it's important that eating late, so these are a couple of tips. First one is light exposure as we get closer to bed, as we get closer to our natural bedtime. It's super important that we do not expose ourselves to bright sort of bulbs, as well as technological devices and the light that they expose us to. So it's super important that we don't do that. But also on the flip side, it is really, really important that we get out and about in the daytime, so our body clock is secreting melatonin at the right time. So the reason why we need that to happen is so we feel sleepy at the right time, so we can get a good night's sleep. But contributing to that is daylight exposure. So does the body know what time it is biologically and chronologically? So if we're working in a space that has not got really any natural light, it's super important that we get out and expose ourselves to natural light, sunshine, etc., so our body clock can be in sync with the chronological clock. That will help us get a better night's sleep. And there's also the added benefits of vitamin D that the sun gives off, which has millions and millions of benefits, which I won't get into now. So melatonin is a key thing in sleep. 2 key points to take away from here. It is the body's signal to say it's time to go to sleep. It prepares the body for sleep. Light will interfere. Too much light at the wrong time and not enough light at the right time will interfere with that melatonin quality and production. So they're the two key points there. The next thing that is a real fundamental around sleep is something called sleep drive, and the sort of biological name for that is adenosine. And what adenosine is essentially is a chemical that the brain produces as we go throughout the day. And that chemical, it builds up and up and up and up. And once we've got enough of that chemical produced, we feel sleepy. That is the role it plays within sleep. It builds up, builds up, builds up. It's almost like a balloon being blown into throughout the day. It inflates, it inflates, it inflates, it inflates. It gets to the point where it's maximally inflated, and then we let the air out. And that letting the air out is when we're asleep. So the importance of adenosine or a sleep drive is that we need it to stay asleep and to get good quality deep sleep. If we are lacking in adenosine and we create interference in some way to the production of our sleep drive or adenosine, is our sleep quality will reduce, sleep quantity can reduce. And what creates interference with adenosine or our sleep drive? 2 main things really that I'll cover today. Number 1 is caffeine. Caffeine will block the production of adenosine and sleep drive. Therefore, our sleep will be disrupted. The quality will not be as high. We'll have greater awakenings. And the second thing that disrupts or suppresses our sleep drive is lack of physical activity. So the homeostatic system produces the sleep drive. That homeostatic system is essentially dependent on us being active. So if we're less active during the day, as the graph on screen shows, the blue line, our adenosine production, our sleep drive production, come our bedtime, is not as great. Therefore, chances of our getting a really good quality night of sleep are significantly less. So sleep drive, melatonin, 2 key points regarding good night of sleep. So in terms of behaviour, so what we've got there, so what I'm sharing with you right now is an almost snapshot of the sleep awareness course that we at Sean Bailey Wellness deliver. And one of the things that we talk about are sleep behaviours. What are good sleep behaviours? So what are good practices that you can do during the day that will enable you to get a better night's sleep that night? And what you're seeing on screen there is you're seeing the definition, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, of consistency. The quality of always behaving or performing in a similar way, or of always happening in a similar way. And when people are trying to improve the sleep, I speak to people all the time about improving sleep. And I would look at the analogy like this. If we're training for a 10K run, for example, we don't start off by running 10K. We start off by building up block by block by block. We're patient, we give ourselves time. If we're trying to lose weight, similar process. We find out how many calories we need, we track our food, we look to where we can clean up our diet, and eventually that weight loss occurs. And sleep is no different. We find behaviours that fit our routine. We find good behaviours that enable us to get better sleep and that we feel improve our sleep. And we continue to apply those behaviours on a consistent basis. And some of those behaviours are, some of the sort of key themes around those behaviours are timings, doing the right thing at the right time before going to bed. And what that means is we don't want to be scrolling Instagram at 10:30 at night when we're trying to get to sleep for 11, for example. Super important. Relevance. What's relevant to you? So if I'm sat here and I'm working with people to improve their sleep and they work shift work, for example, me telling them to go to bed at a consistent time is not something that's going to work because they work shifts. So keeping it relevant to you and your circumstances are critical. Once you find something that works, giving yourself the opportunity to deliver some repetition. So sticking to what you do, making it a habit, making it a practice behavior, making it a good behavior that you incorporate into your daily routine. By doing that, by sticking to those principles, we give ourselves a better chance of getting better sleep. And what are some of those behaviors? So again, I'm trying to share with you a couple of snippets of what we deliver. So we break this down into 3 areas. We look at nutrition, we look at daily habits, caffeine curfew. Some of the behaviors that I'll share will cross over into the 3 spaces. We look at exercise as well. We look at technology, we look at the bedroom. But in terms of daily habits, caffeine curfew. A caffeine curfew, so not drinking coffee after midday, is a really strong strategy in terms of supporting your sleep. The reason why I say that is caffeine is a drug. It has a life cycle of up to 12 hours in the blood and brain. So what that means is if you're having caffeine at 4 p.m, I'm just looking at my clock, by midnight, that caffeine's still going to be in your blood. So if you're accruing caffeine, so if you're having 3-4 coffees a day, or Red Bull, or whatever it may be, that is staying in your bloodstream and you're not giving the body a chance to metabolize it before you're topping it up with more, and that will disrupt your sleep. There's a lot of studies out there, a lot of research. The evidence is very, very strong. It's proven fact that caffeine will interrupt your sleep. Having an alcohol-free period in your life can also benefit your sleep. Alcohol will disrupt certain stages of sleep. It will disrupt REM sleep. Therefore, when we wake up, without going into the biology, we'll feel a little bit more anxious and disrupted because we've drank alcohol the night before. I talked about light, bright light and daylight throughout the day. It's a really good thing to ensure our body clock, our biological clock, and the parts of the brain that control that are optimized. And the way to that is just by getting yourselves exposed to bright light during the day, if you can. something as simple as taking a daily walk in natural daylight without interruption can give yourself, can be a really good practice of giving yourself the opportunity to get that daylight exposure, to get that body clock synchronization in the right place. So in terms of the bedroom, one of the other areas we talk about, there are loads of things we can do within our bedroom that will set the environment up for good sleep. An environment for good sleep is not having phones everywhere and devices everywhere, iPad next to your bed. It's not, because the temptation is there. Things like blackout blinds or blackout curtains, great tool for good sleep. Keeps the sunlight out, less likely to disrupt you because light is there. Fantastic option. However, that's maybe not affordable for people. Something simple, a £2 eye mask from Boots will do exactly the job that a blackout blind will do. So wear that eye mask in bed. Yes, they can be uncomfortable, but you can adapt to ensure that we're in the UK right now. We have light mornings. It's much easier to wake up when the sunshine is shining through your curtains or your blinds. So if you've got the eye mask on, it blocks out that light, still getting those 6 to 7 hours that the body needs. And then lights out. We live in a society that is just full of light. So make sure that when we are preparing for sleep, when we talked about melatonin, when we are getting to early evening, later in the evening, that we start to dampen the lights down. It's amazing how many people just think, oh yeah, I could just turn that lamp off or turn that light off. So lights out. If we've got a dimming light, great. If it's just a little lamp, fantastic. So 3 things we can do there in the bedroom. And then the last thing I'll touch on is nutrition and exercise. The evidence is there that shows that the best form of exercise to improve sleep is strength training. The optimal timing for that is between 3 and 5 p.m. However, I'm not going to start saying to people, please go to the gym, lift weights between 3 and 5 p.m. That's not realistic. But if you can build in strength training into your routine, and that doesn't mean start lifting dumbbells, it could just be doing the garden, it could be doing a little wall press up, it could just be doing some bodyweight squats, but getting yourself into a routine where you build in some form of strength training can help your sleep. The science is there that proves that exercise improves sleep and sleep improves exercise. However, the mechanics of that are yet to be found. No one can understand at the moment in the sleep world why one benefits the other and vice versa. And there's also a lot of evidence around yoga and around how yoga and the mindfulness side of it and the breathing that goes on within yoga can help sleep. There's a lot of links in terms of yoga, the breath work that you will go through, and it's linked to the autonomic nervous system. It activates the right system for your body to put you in the rest and digest stage, which is the right frame of mind, right physical state we need to be in for good sleep. And then the last thing to avoid is just be mindful of your timings of exercise. Try not to be engaging 2 hours before you plan to go to bed. So if you go to bed at 10 o'clock, try not to be in the gym at 8 o'clock. If you're in there and engaged in some high intensity activity that's going to get your heart rate up, the chances are by the time you get to bed, that heart rate is still going to be elevated. Therefore, you're not in that resting state that you need to be for optimal sleep. So there's some tips there, guys. I've just got my website at the bottom where you can find me. I've got my email address, my social media handles. If I can be of any help to you, please get in touch. I hope you enjoyed that quick snapshot, quick overview of improving sleep, some little habits that we can look at. Enjoy the rest of the coaches and the content that's available, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you very much, guys.